Shalom, giving all praises to the Heavenly Father, Yahawah, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Rawchaa, Qadash. Double honors to the apostles, the bishops, the elders at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace and salutations as always to the elect. Another episode where we go into news and prophecy, linking the things that are happening worldwide before your eyes to the Holy Scriptures via biblical prophecy. All right, first and foremost, all right, to show the elect, the remnant, that the words of Yahawah are faithful and true as we chant down Babylon the Great, all right, in this beast system that has a grip, all right, on the entire planet Earth via, all right, the elites of Esau, Edom, the biblical Edomites, all right, who have been able to hide, under various different names, colors like white and everything else like that, only to be revealed in this time, as well as the heathen who are joined unto them, to establish what they believe is going to be a new world order, all right, where they change, all right, what is and undermine prophecy, you see, as well as 2/3 of our people, all right, who are ultimately damned to believe the lie and not to come into the glorious image of Yahawah, and who are forwarding the image of the beast. All right, we're chanting down all of those, okay? Esau, Edom, the heathen, and 2/3 of our own people, all right, as we prophesy the coming of a righteous kingdom, okay? The throne of David, which is going to be set up on earth as it is in heaven, under the authority of the Most High God, Yahawah, the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all right, who's going to establish on earth his only begotten son, Hamashiach Yahawashi, who will establish a righteous government, all right, that will be based upon justice, righteousness, and ultimately this earth will eventually be changed back into the paradise that the Lord intended it to be. This is what's happening on the planet Earth. The kingdom is getting ready to be translated to the Israelites, not to the Moabites, all right, the so-called Chinese, not to Russia, all right, not to the Hamites, the so-called Africans, not to any of these nations, which, the terms associated with these nations that, have dominated the narrative all of these years, African, white, black, Chinese, all of those things are associated with pseudoscience. And we are here to tell the truth of the matter. And we want to talk about what's going on in Niger, which really just means nigger, which really just means black, as we are witnessing, all right, a hardcore rebellion against the West and against the beast system, period, as they've colonized, raped, robbed, and murdered, all right, up until this point where they're being addressed, and that's all according to biblical prophecy. So if you see what's going on in Africa, not only here in Niger, all right, but many of these African nations are banding together, okay, and they are upset, all right, with puppet leaders set up by the colonizers, okay, which this is what we're going to get into. There is a target on the back of Esau, Edom, okay, and biblical prophecy reigns supreme, all right, as many nations are coming together and taking up a parable against this Edomite, okay, and we're going to get into a few videos, some articles to explain what's going on over in Niger, what's going on in Africa, as we have here, as you see here, Africa-Russia relations, all right, are moving forward, which this is biblical prophecy. You see, as these different African nations, all right, are calling out the West, as we see here happening in French is being pretty much kicked out, okay, along with their puppet government, out of these African countries, They're becoming a target. They're telling you, you Edomites, to get out. Check this out. All right, we're going to start here with this video. All right, because the West, along with, you know, the French, the Spanish, the British, you know, have benefited from all of the natural resources that are in Africa and various other different places, you know, and have pillaged, colonized, and set up particular deals with these countries using puppet leaders. You see? And what's happening now is a great rebellion, which is prophecy. All right. Niger coup supporters attack French embassy. Now you have to ask yourself, why is there a French embassy? Why is there U.S. embassies all over the world? Okay. It is a result, all right, of ultimately colonization, okay, and ultimately setting up puppet governments and leaders in these countries that only work in the interest of America and the beast system. And these different nations who are rich in resources, okay, who don't benefit from the riches and the resources in their own lands, like Africa, all right, one of the most fruitful, you know, parts of the earth, you know, they're tired of it. See that? There was anger among the protests over France's influence in its former colony. Some believe Russia will be a stronger ally in the regional fight against jihad extremists, which we know all of those extremists, all right, and all of that was set up by the West. Okay, everybody's waking up to you devils, man. All right, but as you see, Russia again is being named. All right, and like that wicked satanic nigga Biggie Small said, as soon as he buy that wine, Russia is creeping up from behind. All right, and this is the perfect opportunity for Russia. All right, as we have here, let's play this real quick. Okay. Russia has a strong influence in Africa. All right. Because it is all biblical prophecy. See here.
And well crafted, and it represents the views that the various countries that were here put forward together with your views, and I believe that we've got a declaration that can take our relationship between Africa and Russia forward. For having us in St. Petersburg, we believe that it was successful, most successful. It was well organized, and the outcome is very, very good. The declaration was well negotiated and well crafted, and it represents the views that the...
So pretty much, all right, as I believe 30 to 40, you know, African countries are trying to join the BRICS. All right. If you look here, African leaders urge Putin to end war. Putin promises free grain to 6 African countries. All right. Putin says ties with Africa a priority. So basically, what we're going to get into in this news and prophecy, first and foremost, is the fact that you're seeing a rebellion against the beast system. Okay. And these various different nations are going to ally with Russia as pertaining to biblical prophecy. Okay. Let's get the book of Ezekiel 38 real quick, and then we'll get into the videos. All right. Ezekiel 38:2, Son of man, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal. All right, the area of Turkey, Armenia. Okay, prophesy against him, because we talk about Russia a lot. All right, but the Lord is still against Russia. All right, Russia is also, all right, forwarding that MOTB system. Russia, all right, in itself, they aren't righteous, all right, but they're just a better batch of Edomites, and they're going to be used as a catalyst to come against the West in this beast system, all right, and to get things broken up, as well as particular members of the EU and NATO are going to side with them, all right. The Lord is ultimately breaking up Esau's power structure so that their own sword can turn on themselves. You see? And we're here to speak these things into existence. It says, and say, thus saith the Lord, behold, I am against thee, O Gog, the chief prince of Meshech and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and will put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth, all right, and all thine army. All right. So the hooks being put into the jaws is, symbolism of, a wild animal, ultimately being held back. Russia, if you remember the USSR, which is the reason NATO was created. NATO was created to combat, the power of the USSR, all right, which is associated, the Soviet Union, Russia, all right, which, the Cold War and all of that, which it never ended, but for years Russia was silent, all right, in the West, along with NATO, dominated. You see, and now we're living in the times where Russia is being brought back into that old Soviet spirit, which is a threat to the West and to NATO, the EU and stuff like that. So basically, all right, America and NATO, with all of the tough talk, they think they're still dealing with that old, weak, disbanded USSR, that wasn't really a major, player and all of that. But the Lord is bringing Russia back along, all right, with many things that are leading many nations to join unto Russia, which they're creating and forming their own beast system. Even, all right, this whole BRICS thing, which ultimately is going to take more than that to get around the U.S. dollar. It's going to take a catastrophic event. But the sentiment with the BRICS is that these nations are trying to figure out a way around, all right, the U.S. dollar. So it's all speaking to biblical prophecy anyway, all right, which ultimately is the bankers that are at the forefront of all of this anyway, all right, but they're soon going to find out that they're not in control, all right. So the Lord said, I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and I will bring thee forth and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Iran, all right, which they're locked and loaded. They're down with Russia. Okay, they're a part of the BRICS. Ethiopia, all right, which has ties with Russia. Okay, Russia's training their military up. Russia has embassies over in Ethiopia, okay, which is an African country. Okay, Libya, all right, another African country. Okay, just giving you the sentiment, all right, that Africa is going to side with Russia, all right, and all of them are going to come against the West. All of them with shield and helmet, okay? Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah in the north quarters with all his bands, and many people with thee. So Turkey, Germany, which have all been hit, by recent, what's that word? Recent sanctions that have been put on, Russia. All of these countries, are going to eventually rebel against, all right, their own, alliance and side with Russia. See, be thou prepared and prepare thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. So Russia is going to be a guard to these many nations, all right, and be the catalyst to lead this rebellion in the latter days against, all right, Israel, against the West, all right, and it's going to be a major player in this beast system being broken up. Okay, as you can see here, Putin is promising grain to these African countries. Now, why are these African countries in need, all right, so badly when they're rich in all of these resources? Well, that goes back to what we're dealing with here. Okay, as you can see, this attack on the French embassy, all right, these African nations are pissed off, man. Okay. They're pissed off, man. And the sentiment is you Edomites are the problem. Okay? You Edomites are the problem.
Met within 1 week. Take all measures necessary to restore constitutional order in the Republic of Niger. Such measures may include the use of force.
See? They're cutting ties. As you can see here, Niger junta revokes military deals with France. Okay, as you can see here, like recent coups, all right, in neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali. Last week's military takeover in Niger came amid a growing wave of anti-French sentiment, with some locals accusing the former colonial ruler of interfering in their affairs. So his ill dealings are being addressed. Okay. It says France has between 1,000 and 1,500 troops in Niger helping to fight, all right, an insurgency by groups linked to Al Qaeda. When you hear Al Qaeda, you automatically know that it's something set up there by the West, all right, as a proxy or reason to offer aid and help, but really they're after the resources, man. And it's come to the point where they've run the same play over and over and over, to the point where, all right, because these things destabilize these countries, man. Okay, you send threats over there, coups you set up, all right, then you come and offer the help, all right. That's described in the book of Sirach, the 12th chapter. That's why never trust your enemy. Okay, so let's get into some videos real quick. I want to start with the Elder Malcolm's video. Okay, this is off of Critical Race Theory. 40 African nations align with BRICS against the colonizing West. All right, Critical Race Historical Facts. Subscribe to the Elders page and be edified. Let's see here. I don't want it to be too fast. And he's going into it. He's going to play some videos, and I'm going to play other videos. We're going to get some scriptures. But the beautiful thing about this all is that we're witnessing biblical prophecy be fulfilled.
Got by deceit. The kingdom is translated from one people to another. So through all these, through bad contracts and treacherous dealings, unrighteous dealings, injuries, power is transferred and wealth is transferred away from the people into the hands of Westerners. All right, and then these people get mistreated in their own lands, in their own countries, and live in poverty, while the West, especially the French and the British, have lived deliciously off the.
Which, when we talk about the 7 heads, okay, the Greeks, Rome, the Spanish, the French, Germania Major, Germania Minor, the British, okay, which that's the 7, and America came out of the British. These are the different countries and rulerships that have ultimately reigned supreme and have ultimately given Esau authority in the planet Earth. You remember that movie? What was it? Black Panther. They talked about the colonizer, and from that movie, Jake started to call Esau colonizers. Well, that's what they've done. When you get the scripture, all right, Revelation the 13th chapter explains what this beast system would do. You see, and they've gotten rich. All right, as the elder was reading, here in Sirach the 10th chapter, in the 8th verse, because of unrighteous dealings, injuries, and riches gotten by deceit, the kingdom is translated from one people to another, and that's how Esau Edom has gotten to the top, and now it's being addressed, and now they're coming with this mindset, white lives matter. It's okay to be white, because ultimately we're living in a time where you Edomites are being addressed. It's just your turn. And it's prophecy. All right. And it's warranted. This is what you devils would do. Revelation 13:7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints, the Israelites, first and foremost, and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him. So the various different nations have worshiped this beast, his image, have submitted to his will. See, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. You see, and now as we get deeper into prophecy, many of these different nations, all right, as we read in Obadiah. Okay. Real quick. Because through Esau conquering and destroying and making these deals, nations have submitted to his will. Nations have drunk the juice. They've allowed these puppet leaders to come into their countries. Well, now they're saying no more. We're suffering too much. All of your promises and your empty lies and your bullshit and your propaganda, we're waking up to it. We're in the information age. Obadiah verse 7 says, all the men of thy confederacy have brought thee even to the border. The men that were at peace with thee have deceived thee and prevailed against thee. They that eat thy bread, which is that debt, have laid a wound under thee. The bricks is a big part of that. There is none understanding in him. Shall I not in that day, saith the Lord, even destroy the wise man out of Edom and the understanding out of the mount of Esau? So Esau's all over the place. His ill dealings have come, all right, up before the highest. And this is where we are. So let's keep listening.
These Hamites over in Africa and the Jakes that are still there. All right. So let me play this. Let me go to TikTok, play this video. Sound is up.
All of Africa stands with Russia now. All of Africa. Russia and China. You know what's in Africa? Resources and money. Money to be made. Because Africa and India, specifically India, are going to be the global superpowers of the future. Not America.
Yep. That's the plan,
And definitely not Europe. And by the way, Africa still suffers underneath the amount of money that it's paying Europe every year because of colonialism. Colonialism.
Africa still suffers because of colonialism. All right. The colonizers, Spanish, the French, the British. Yeah. Using that pseudoscience to justify slaughtering, exterminating, castrating, doctrine of discovery, all of that. All of these nations are still suffering from that. And now the Lord is putting the spirit on them to remember and to wake up for the purpose of fulfilling biblical prophecy. Let's go.
1700s colonialism. Now that they're standing up on their own, guess what? They want their own money, their own people. They were thriving before colonialism. Now they are making their own money, and they're like, oh, we want to keep this. These people doing in our country, they're conquer the economy of the world. They want a fair share. You know who doesn't want that? Europe and America. They don't want that.
No, they never want fair share. They always want to be on top with everyone else under their boot and fighting over crumbs.
They don't want fair shares all the way across. America wants to be on top. Europe wants to be on top. What do you think about this? All of Africa.
So there you go. Let's get a scripture real quick. This is Nahum 3:1, as the elder brought out. Woe to the bloody city. It is all full of lies and robbery. The prey departed not. Okay, and this is speaking of, ancient Nineveh, which ultimately speaks to modern day Babylon the Great. And around this time, Nineveh had rape, robbed, murder, all right, and did all manner of evil. And ultimately the Lord, raised up, I believe, the Babylonians or the Assyrians against them, which Nineveh is the capital of Assyria. It could have been the Babylonians, I forget. But there was a major war that Nahum witnessed, all right, at the time of Jonah. It was prophesied that it would fall, but it didn't happen, until hundreds of years later, at the time of, Nahum Tobit. And interestingly, at this time that Nahum, was prophesying against Nineveh, the leaders were cross-dressing, the men were very effeminate, the women were, out of order, whoredom was promoted, orgies were going on, men were putting on makeup and lipstick. Okay, when you go into it, the last ruler, or one of the last rulers over Nineveh, Sardanapalus, was a complete cross-dresser. So we're witnessing the same fate, all right, of, what happened in Nineveh, and what was going on. We're witnessing the same fate here in Babylon the Great. Let's listen to a little bit more of the elder's lesson as he plays these videos, and then we'll get other videos.
Breaking news. France gearing up to the rescue mission for their spies, citizens in Niger.
France plans to evacuate hundreds of French and European citizens from Niger over the next 24 hours. Its foreign ministry.
Now let me read this too. It says, Burkina Faso and Mali says they will back Niger, which is really just called nigger, if invaded. All right? If invaded. Like target, they try to change the word. And that word in English, Niger, is pronounced nigger. Always has been. All right? But here we go.
We held a crisis meeting in Paris earlier to coordinate the operation. That follows attacks on the French embassy, the capital and the army, and the closure of Niger's borders after President Mohamed Bazoum was deposed last week. The leaders of neighboring Burkina Faso and Mali have warned that any military intervention would be considered a declaration of war against them too.
Wow. So what's happening is something that really hasn't happened before. These African countries usually stayed separate from each other. They're banding together against Esau, Edom, which makes me think of that scripture in Job, the hand of the wicked. We'll get that next, but here we go.
They're working around the clock at the Foreign Ministry in Paris. Diplomats preparing to evacuate French citizens from Niger after President Mohamed Bazoum was deposed last week.
This is something illegal.
We refuse to apply these illegal, illegitimate, and inhumane sanctions against the people of Niger. We warn that any military intervention against Niger will be considered as a declaration of war against Burkina Faso and Mali.
Wow.
Before the coup, Niger was an important ally of the West in the fight against armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda in the Sahel. It's also one of the world's biggest producers of uranium, which fuels nuclear power stations.
So that's a serious loss. America just lost the biggest producer of uranium. All right? That's a huge... That's not good for them.
They produced more than 2,000 tons of high-grade uranium last year. That's 5% of global output.
Wow.
France is heavily reliant on nuclear energy. Niger supplies an estimated 15% of uranium for French nuclear power stations. The French government says that it has 2 years' worth of uranium stocks. Some analysts say Western powers are only interested in Niger's natural resources.
It's very worrisome, and I think all Africans must be very worried or concerned that France is making itself, or has made itself, a former colonial power, a kingmaker in Africa, and chooses to protect its interests, even if that means remove.
So by choosing to protect his interests, meaning acting militarily against these people to force them to continue to support them. France cannot operate its power grid without Niger, without the country of Niger. All right, they provide more than 15% of their uranium. They say, and France has 2 years of storage left. So what happens after that? So let's go to the scriptures.
Let's get the book of Habakkuk 2 and 4. All right. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him. I mean, he believes he's going to be able to continue in his, rape, robbing and murdering and, sucking up the natural resources of the places where he's colonized and setting up, false puppet leaders and, destabilizing, countries and governments. And he thinks he's going to be able to do that forever. All right. Because when you go to the first chapter of Habakkuk, it talks about here, all right, the Chaldeans, which the modern day Chaldeans are the Edomites, the elites in particular, because the Chaldeans were the witches and warlocks, all right, the magicians, all right, of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. Now we're in Babylon the Great, all right, in Isaiah the 47, it talks about the daughter of the Chaldeans, but this is what they were doing. All right. This is Habakkuk 1 and 7. They are terrible and dreadful. Their judgment and their dignity shall precede themselves. Their horses are swifter than the leopards, okay, and are more fierce than the evening wolves, and their horsemen shall spread themselves. The military is spread far out, embassies everywhere. And their horsemen shall come from far. They shall fly as the eagle that hasted to eat. Okay, and again, this is speaking of, the Chaldeans, the Neo-Babylonian Empire, but it speaks to Esau, Edom as well in end-time prophecy as we're in Babylon the Great, the daughter of Babylon, daughter of the Chaldeans. They shall come all for violence. Their faces shall sup up as the east wind. They shall gather the captivity as the sand. Okay, and that's what they've done. They have all people under, this stronghold, and now they're trying to complete it, with this digital beast system. And they shall scoff at kings, and the princes shall be a scorn unto them, and they shall deride every stronghold. You see that? Deriding strongholds through propaganda like Al-Qaeda. All of a sudden this particular group pops up in your country, okay, trained by, which it came out that, the Obama administration were training Al-Qaeda, but whatever. Then, because you're in ties with the beast system, all right, they say we'll send over aid, but really the whole time they got their eyes on your resources. It's the oldest trick in the book, They bring feminism, they bring democracy, they bring all manner of things to these countries for the purpose of destabilizing them. All right. And then a war breaks out. All right. And who pops up? Halliburton. And the next thing you know, you look up, you have no control over any of the resources in your own land. And all of the businesses benefit the beast and not your own people. Okay. So they shall deride every stronghold, for they shall heap dust and take it. Then shall his mind change, and he shall pass over, offending, imputing his power unto his God, Satan. Okay, so going to this next chapter, and even in this chapter, as you keep reading, verse 12, art thou from everlasting, O God, mine holy one? We shall not die. O Lord, thou hast ordained them for judgment. He set up, the Babylonians, the Chaldeans, to judge us. Almighty God, thou hast established them for correction. All right, but there's another side to that, just like there's another side to Esau, Edom being established to correct us. All right. Thou art pure, all right, eyes. Thou art pure eyes then to behold evil, and canst not look on iniquity. Why then lookest thou upon them that dealest treacherously, and beholdest thy tongue, and holdest thy tongue, when the wicked devour the man that is more righteous than he, and makest men as the fishes of the sea, and creeping things that have no rule over them, And this is what the wicked have been able to do, rule over the people as if they're fish. They catch them, all right, as it says here, they take all of them up with their angle, all right, which the angle is the hook, which is the lies. They catch them in their net, then gather them in their drag. Therefore, they rejoice and are glad. And this is what the wicked have been doing. You know, they've caught everybody, you know, with their, you know, their angle, their lies, their propaganda. They've caught the whole world in their net. And then they rejoice and glad because they're able to benefit. All right. Therefore, they sacrifice into their net and burn incense into their drag. All right. Because by them, their portion is fat and their meat plenteous. So they've gotten rich. They're sacrificing to Satan. All right. They're, you know, and they're prospering. But the question is, shall they therefore empty their net and not spare to continually slay the nations? Okay. Are they going to just be able to just empty out what they've, you know, stole and do all of this evil forever? All right. NLT, will you let them get away with this forever? Will they succeed forever in their heartless conquest? So the way that the Lord is going to address them, which is speaking of the, you know, really is speaking of this place, America, Esau, Edom. All right. But it's also speaking of, you know, ancient Babylon, but we're in Babylon the Great now. Okay. The Lord is going to end all of the ill dealings through the final rulership of the beast that Daniel saw in Daniel the 7th chapter, which is Babylon the Great. All right. But here's the point. Habakkuk 2:4. Behold, his soul which is lifted up is not upright in him, but the just shall live by his faith. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. That's what he's done. He can't be satisfied. Okay? He's all over the place. Shall not all these take up a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth in that which is not his, how long, and to him that ladeth himself with thick clay. See? So people are taking up a parable against you. All right? Saying, woe to him that increaseth in that which is not his. And that's what they've been doing in all of these different countries, in particular Africa. See? Shall not they arise up, all right, that shall suddenly bite thee, all right, and awake that shall vex thee, and thou shalt be for booties unto them, because thou hast spoiled many nations. All the remnant of the people shall spoil thee, because of men's blood and the violence of the land and of the city, all right, and of all that dwell therein. Woe to him that coveteth an evil covetousness to his house, that he may set his nest on high, that he may be delivered from the power of evil. So you're in these countries benefiting from the resources they're rich in, all right. You're setting up businesses and corporations in these countries to where you're not suffering, but they are. You didn't think at some point these nations were going to be angry about this? All right. Now, this is a video done by the elder brother, Rawchaa. All right. And it's called How France Has Been Doing the West Africa Dirty. All right. They will join unto Gog and Magog, which is Russia. Okay, and he's playing this video, so check this out. GMS Fear the Most High 7 Ba. All right, check this out. Subscribe to his page and be edified and watch this video. Watch the video the other elder did, Elder Malcolm, Critical Race Historical Facts. Okay, and that video was called 40 African Nations Aligned with BRICS Against Colonization. Okay.
Pressure because of the immigration from Africa. He said, you're the reason for this immigration out of Africa, because you're the one destroying these countries with your post-colonial policies. And they were right. And this is going to explain exactly what France has been doing.
The French Empire was one of the most powerful in human history. At its height, it controlled almost 10% of the world's land area. From Southeast Asia to West Africa, the country we today associate with baguettes and cinema was a dominant global power. And that was particularly true in Africa. France oversaw territory spanning 17 modern-day nations, from Morocco to the Congo. Under the banner of a civilizing mission, France oversaw brutal occupations that engorged the wealth of the empire and left a terrible legacy for ordinary Africans, marked by slavery, extraction, and...
Terrible legacy. The people don't rate it. And and that's making it easy for Russia.
Murder. And today, France's empire in Africa is still around, in a streamlined, more profitable, and even more exploitative form. Let me explain. In the aftermath of the Second World War, there was a wave of decolonial movements sweeping across Africa and Asia. And the French, humiliated by their defeat and occupation at the hands of the Nazis, were eager to maintain their empire. So they responded to revolts in Algeria, Indochina, and Madagascar with brutal reprisals. Maintaining foreign holdings became increasingly difficult. By 1960, France was forced to grant independence to almost all its colonies. But something really important happened in Africa. Basically, the leadership of France decided to keep their empire in Western and Central Africa intact in everything but name. The plan was simple. When an African country gained its independence, it was made to sign a so-called cooperation agreement with France, which would outline the nature of their relations moving forward. In exchange for French foreign aid, African countries were required to give France rights over natural resources, allow France to maintain troops in their territory indefinitely, and, most importantly, keep these countries' currencies linked to France's currency, the franc.
So you see, all this time, this is what I'm trying to say. All this time that this devil's been pretending that they've changed and we're good people now. They never changed. They never changed, man. That's what I'm saying. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's the same devil doing the same things. And now the people have had enough.
Instead of having their own currency, they were to use the franc of the Financial Community of Africa, which is now called the CFA franc. The French framed these cooperation agreements as a choice, but they were also clear about the consequences of defiance. When the leader of Guinea, a socialist named Sékou Touré, rejected the cooperation agreement with France and declared that he preferred to be poor in freedom than rich in slavery, the French government decided to make an example of him. They cut all foreign aid to Guinea and did everything they could to destabilize the government. They launched a secret campaign to print fake Guinean banknotes and flood the country with them.
Now they cut foreign aid to Guinea. What Guinea will do is there's a whole coalition with a massive ass GDP on the other side willing to help Russia, China, India, Brazil. Do you see how it's changed now?
One French spy later bragged, the operation was a total success. Guinea's economy, already very weak, never fully recovered. The French said that these countries existed within the so-called French community, but the policy would come to be known more widely as France Afrique. It was about having their former colonies in a position that was maximally advantageous to French interests. Many of the first generation of post-colonial leaders in former French colonies had essentially been installed by the French. They spoke French, had spent time in France, and were well integrated with French elites. Jacques Faucart, a French diplomat, oversaw French relations with Africa for almost 30 years and built a huge web of client relationships with African leaders, using corruption and covert operations to make them loyal subordinates. When local political orders were threatened, the French weren't afraid to protect their hand-picked dictators. Since 1960, France has invaded Africa more than 50 times. Look at the Central African country of Gabon as one example. Gabon is particularly important to France because it has a huge supply of oil and an even bigger supply of uranium. Among the African colonies, Gabon was historically one of the very closest to France. In 1967, a man named Omar Bongo became Gabon's president, soon turning the country into a one-party dictatorship. And Bongo was intimate with France. He'd been appointed after flying to Paris for what was basically a job interview with the president. So, under Bongo, France and Gabon enjoyed a relationship that benefited both sets of elites. Gabon's oil was pumped by the French state-owned oil company ELF, and its uranium went right into France's arsenal of nuclear weapons. In return, France subsidized Gabon's budget, especially the parts that flowed into the pockets of Omar Bongo and his family. At one point, Bongo was worth over $130 million. Gabon, meanwhile, remained poor and underdeveloped. Under Bongo, it had one of the highest infant mortality rates in the world. Instead of investing in the Gabonese economy, Bongo spent state funds on influencing French...
Esau cares about the children. No, Esau don't give a damn. All Esau cared about was the wicked covetousness to his house. As long as he's getting what he wants, he don't care about people. He's not a humanitarian. They will put whoever they can in power to keep the gravy train going.
Politics in his favor, bankrolling the campaigns of several future French presidents. Even today, France keeps troops in the country to support Gabon's current ruler, who happens to be Omar Bongo's son. And somehow, Gabon is actually one of the happier stories. Other countries, like the Central African Republic, are today some of the poorest in the world, in part due to the legacies of French-backed dictators like Jean Bedel Bokassa. But there's another aspect of French influence that's even more important. Probably the most central part of all is the CFA franc, the last colonial currency still in widespread use. In practice, the countries that use the CFA franc have virtually no monetary sovereignty. The value of their currency is linked to the euro. The poorest countries in the world have a currency controlled by the richest countries.
God damn.
And so the imperatives of European countries, fiscal discipline and fighting inflation, end up shaping the very different world of Western and Central Africa. That leads to an overly tight approach to credit, something that's necessary in our current system for an economy to grow. It means that any appreciation of the euro makes exports from these countries less price competitive. So just look at what happened in Senegal. When the euro appreciated against the dollar from 2000 to 2009, the value of the CFA franc got higher. But this made local Senegalese rice more expensive than imported rice from Thailand. So Senegal, which was trying to build its own domestic rice industry, instead saw Thai rice wipe out local rice farmers. So because domestic products are expensive, this makes export-driven growth nearly impossible, which is necessary to lead a country out of poverty. That's why most countries that use the CFA franc have growth rates significantly lower than their neighbors. Because the CFA discourages the development of domestic industry, many of these economies have actually been shrinking. The Ivory Coast, the largest CFA franc country, has a real GDP per capita 1/3 lower than it had in 1978. Other CFA franc countries like Cameroon and the Republic of the Congo reached their highest levels of real GDP per capita in the 70s and 80s. And because economic growth is weaker, there's more incentive for local elites in these countries, always tied closely to French multinationals.
So you get the point on that. You can go watch more videos on that. But let's go to what's happening right now. So when you see this coup in Niger, this is basically Russia coming in now and using all that discontent with France to put their own people in power. And the people are with it because the people hate France and what France has been doing. And Russia ain't gonna do much but give them a better deal. And that's that. These people ain't got no loyalty to France or the West. Why should they? Alright, and then so the question was, is France able to squash this coup? So they made a whole bunch of threats, and almost immediately what happened? A whole bunch of countries came in aid of Niger, showing that you're not just going to get rid of this problem easy. What's that going to do? Make other coups possible. Because if this coup is successful, then that means France has lost control.
And now let's turn our attention to the West African nation of Niger. A different type of storm has hit the country, one that could turn it into a battlefield between Russia and the West. I'll explain why in a moment, but first a quick primer. Meet the president of Niger. His name is Mohamed Bazoum. Last week, his presidential guard put him under arrest. Then the military declared they're in charge. Basically, it was a coup. The fourth since the country's independence some 6 decades ago. We covered this last week. But over the past few days, there have been new developments. Other countries have entered the picture. West African nations have issued an ultimatum. They say the president, Bazoum, should be reinstated in 15 days, else they will intervene militarily. The country of Chad is a neighbor of Niger. Their president is visiting. He's talking to the military leaders who pulled off the coup. Meanwhile, the French embassy in Niger has also come under attack. Supporters of the coup threw stones at the embassy. They even tried to start a fire outside the compound and burned the French flag outside the building. What explains this protest? Well, Niger was once a French colony. French forces are still deployed in the country. The protesters want them to leave. They blame France for their problems, for the state of insecurity in Niger, and for the rampant militancy in West Africa. And amid all of this, something very interesting was observed. Listen, look at this. In fact, supporters of the coup were seen carrying Russian flags.
So this is all propaganda, because now people who have the same sentiment in these other countries with these puppets are thinking, well, hold on. Russia looking like a liberator now. Hold on. Like, if they could do that in Niger, then we could do that where we are, and Russia can help us too. And that's exactly what's going to happen. And all of this is just leading to the final war.
Absolutely. So you can check out the rest of that video. He goes in. Always beautiful videos. Let's get the book of Isaiah 33:1. Woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled, and dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. See, for a long time the prey departed not. You know, many people submitted to the will, all right, of Esau's dominance, you know, colonization, which is prophecy. All of these things that are happening worldwide, this is what we try to tell you. It's all, you know, pursuant to biblical prophecy. And now you're seeing, you know, these, you know, different platforms, you know, that mock the Bible. You know, look at Brother Polite, you know, look at Sonetta TV. They're found wanting. You know, look at the Christian religion. They're found wanting. See, what's going to be found out is that the prophets of Yahawah Yahawashi, we're telling the truth. The Lord have set forth the apostles, lads, and the apostles, all right, have a testimony. They have a particular gospel that would lead to the end being spoken into existence. And this is why you Edomites are being addressed. Okay? So woe to thee that spoilest, and thou was not spoiled. Woe to thee that dealest treacherously, and they dealt not treacherously with thee. When thou shalt cease to spoil, thinking you're going to set up your new world order and bring peace and safety, thou shalt be spoiled. And when thou make an end to deal treacherously, they shall deal treacherously with thee. And it's too late for, peace talks. It's too late for trying to threaten, with the sword. And, because France is now like, well, we got other African countries coming to our aid. Russia's going to come to our aid, which is eventually going to be Iran, China, and all of these different nations. They're no longer scared of you. This is why the scriptures say, let the weak say, I am strong. Okay? In the book of Joel, all of these weak nations who have been dominated by the West, by the beast system, all right, are now, all right, like we for the shake back. Joel 3:9, proclaim ye this amongst the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men, let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, beat your plowshares into swords and your pruning hooks into spears, let the weak say, I am strong. So the weak nations, agriculture is done. Okay, they've been raped, robbed, and murdered. They don't have the resources. They're like, F it. It's just time to rebel against this power structure. All right, and get things back right, which ultimately, all of you are going into captivity. All right, and there's a lot of them, some of them are jakes, whatever. But these heathen nations have this sentiment, all right, by joining, with Russia, as the elder is going into, all right, assemble yourselves and come, all ye heathen, gather yourselves together round about, thither cause thy mighty ones, all right, to come down. And as we read here in Ezekiel 38, all of these different nations are going to join themselves into Russia, and Russia is going to be a guard unto them. All right, as we go to biblical prophecy, Revelation, the 13th chapter. Okay, Revelation 13:2, and the beast I saw, which was like unto a leopard. It begins with the Greeks, the leopard, and his feet were the feet of a bear, because the bear represents Russia, all right, being used as a catalyst, as the big brother to destroy, all right, the 10 toes, all right, which is the beast system headed by Babylon the Great, all right, along with NATO. Russia is that bear. And when you go to this word bear, all right, in the Greek, let's see here, the word is arctos, a bear, all right. But when you get the root word, okay, archeo, all right, to be possessed of unfailing strength, to be strong, all right. The men over in Russia, all right, the Russian leader, he's against feminizing his men. Okay, he's against the ways of the West. All right, and Russia has been brought back to that old Soviet spirit. Okay, it says to be strong, to be enough to defend, to ward off. So they're going to be used to defend. And ironically, all right, all you have to do is look it up. Russia is linked with the bear. All right. Russia is linked with the bear. Okay. Russian bear symbolism. When you go into the Russia, they're linked with the bear, even in a carnal sense. So in spirit, they're likened it to a bear as well, as we just read in Revelation, the 13th chapter. Okay, we'll give that time to load. Give me 1 second here. Boom. As you see here, Russian bear. Okay. Why is the bear a symbol of Russia? Well, ultimately, that's the spirit the Lord put on them. All right. And they're going to be used in these latter days, all right, as a defender to ward off these Western nations, as well as these, you know, the members of the beast system who've colonized. Okay, Russia's basically going to come with a better deal. All right, he's going to, you know, aid them up militarily. Okay, set up embassies over there. All right, and the puppet leaders of the French and of the West, all right, are going to be ultimately, you know, moved out of the way. This is all biblical prophecy. Okay, this is another video. Give me 1 second here. DW News, coup in Niger, a sign of waning Western influence. And I'm just going to skip to this interview. I'll skip to right here.
Into fears of further violence for both Niger and the wider region.
Our West Africa correspondent Elisa Chukwuma is following this story from Nigeria, which borders Niger. I asked him about the ongoing tensions in Niger and the evacuation of foreign nationals.
Well, Terry, the tense situation, especially in the capital, Niamey of Niger, has really forced the hand of, you know, foreign nationals, especially for the French, who are, you might say,
you see those Edomites are leaving. All right, they're in fear. See, they're getting out of Dodge.
Spooked by the events we saw the weekend with the burning and the attacks on the French embassy and the fires and the flames and all the violence we saw. So the evacuations have already begun. Planes have landed in Paris as early this morning with over 200 people on board, most of them French nationals. And also in Italy, another flight arrived early this morning in Rome with a couple of nationals there. So we will see more evacuations from the French and also Italians. The Germans will also take up the offer for European evacuations through the French medium there, and also countries like Spain also taking up this one. Don't forget, Terry, today, Wednesday, makes it a week since the ouster of President Mohamed Bazoum of Niger by this military junta.
Regional military leaders are meeting in Nigeria's capital today to discuss their response. ECOWAS has threatened to use force if necessary to restore Niger's democratically elected leader. How likely is military intervention?
Well, it's not very likely, many analysts will say, but it won't come as a surprise. In the decades before now, especially in the 1990s, we have seen, ECOMOG, which is the military arm of ECOWAS, moving to a place like Liberia, Sierra Leone. They really had successful interventions there. Guinea, most recently, Senegalese troops in 2017 to remove the president who didn't step down, the Yahya Jammeh at the time. So, but recently, we've not really seen so much, heavy-handedness from ECOWAS. So we'll see the meetings today in Abuja, today and tomorrow. In fact, it's the military chiefs of the ECOWAS bloc who are meeting. So it's the follow-up from Sunday's resolution, perhaps led by, from the calls on Nigeria's President Tinubu to use all means necessary. So the military chiefs are meeting today and tomorrow. It does mean that ECOWAS might be serious on that front.
Talk to us, Chukwuma, briefly about the regional context here. How worried are neighboring countries about this coup?
Well, they are. Terry, you look at since 2020, you look at the recent slew of coups that happened in Mali, in Burkina Faso, and in Guinea, with the attempts there too, and now Niger, almost forming what ostensibly many are calling the coup belt. So hence why countries like Nigeria, Ghana, Benin, Togo, the Ivory Coast have their eyebrows raised that will this emerging trend continue in West Africa, where military juntas just go and topple civilian governments?
See, they're overthrowing those puppet leaders and governments that have been set up by Esau. You see? And you can keep watching this, All right. But again, these other, countries, they're like, man, shit. Well, we gonna do it too. We gonna do it too. Again, this is all the weak saying I am strong, man. All right. And a lot of these are Jakes. All right. But it's in the, because Jake was scattered, amongst them. All right. But at the end of the day, it's biblical prophecy, man. Okay. Another one that was interesting is this.
Warning, this video may contain graphic or potentially sensitive content, which is being shown only for the sole purposes of journalism and accurate reporting. The creator of this channel does not endorse violence or what you will hear in this video in any form. Viewer discretion is advised.
The poor, the farmer.
Look at the title, genocidal chant about Edomites spark outrage in South Africa. All right. And you're going to, in a minute, understand what they're saying here.
The poor, the farmer.
Well, folks, I'm probably going to get in trouble for doing this video, but frankly, I don't care. I don't care if it's politically correct or not, because the truth of the matter is that if this were any other race of people besides white people, this would be the biggest story in the world right now. But of course, because it is white people, not only do people not care, but they actually will label you an alt-right conspiracy theorist racist or something for simply watching a video like that and being concerned about the safety of the Boers of the white minority in South Africa. But regardless, we are going to talk about this because it absolutely does matter. And I think a big reason they don't want us to pay attention to this or notice this is because, let's be real, it's coming to the Western world sooner or later, this type of rhetoric, this type of attitude, which of course translates into action. So today, I don't care, we are going to talk about it. That video you just saw in the beginning is of the communist left-wing opposition leader in South Africa. So this is a political leader, opposition, sure, but still a political leader nonetheless, chanting very openly in a large crowd of people to, as you heard, shoot and kill the Boer. The Boer are South Africa's white minority, so essentially...
You see that? All right, how did they get over there? How did they get over into South Africa and become, all right, the #1 farmer, own all of the land? Huh? Colonization, man. And it's all biting you in the ass, man. Let's get a scripture real quick in the book of Obadiah, man. You're becoming small amongst the heathen. Okay? Obadiah, verse 2, behold, I have made thee small among the heathen. Thou art greatly despised. All right? So when you look up this word small, all right, it should be katan. Yep. Which means basically insignificant. Okay, insignificant, unimportant, all right, and these different nations, all right, are looking at you as the lesser. Okay, you think this is, people are just doing this out of the, the fact that your skin color. No, this goes back to what you all have done, your ill dealings. There's a shameful spewing on the glory of Esau, Edom, and how you got to where you are, and while you're scattered amongst all of these nations on the top. All right. But the everyday people who really, stem from these regions are on the bottom.
Essentially what they're saying, right, is to shoot and kill white people. OK, now people may say, oh, but Vince, he's the opposition leader, so who cares? Well, my question is, how long is he going to actually remain the opposition leader? Because I think, as you can tell from that video, the guy has packed a soccer stadium of what has to be close to 100,000 people all getting together and chanting to shoot and kill the white minority in South Africa. That is not a small thing, right? You cannot write that off as just some small fringe political leader. That is far larger than any political rallies we get in America, including Trump rallies. So I don't think it's a small thing. I certainly don't think it's something to not be concerned about. I think it is actually pretty safe to say, judging by the size of that crowd and judging by the prominence of this guy, even if he's the opposition leader in that country, this is a pretty mainstream song and movement in the nation of South Africa. And that's why it needs to be talked about. But people may say, but Vince, it's not America, so why are you talking about this? Okay, well, I'll tell you why, for two reasons. First of all, you are right. It's not America. You may write it off as, oh, but that's what happens in the third world. Two problems with that. First of all, America is becoming the third world, so it's kind of hard to say, oh, that's the third world, it won't happen to us. But first of all, the reason I am talking about it is because, like I said earlier, you will not hear a lick of this from anywhere in American media, right? And you certainly won't see, as a racial minority group in that country is pretty openly persecuted, and in some cases, you will not, you certainly won't hear American media talk about it.
And see, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal. We're not here, all right, to push a message to, for people to go out and, off all right? But this is biblical prophecy. This is what we're here to tell you. See, the weapons of our warfare are not carnal, but mighty through the pulling down of strongholds, which, stem from Esau, Edom. But look at this comment. It is insane how much Edomites are being hated today coming from a black person. I support y'all. Yeah. And see, these are the days we're coming up on. You're not going to be able to come to the aid and save Esau, man. Okay? You're not going to be able to save this guy. Second Edges 7:43. But the day of doom shall be the end of this time and the beginning, all right, of the immortality to come. All right, wherefore corruption is past. All right, corruption is getting ready to be done away with. That's how you Edomites got to where you are, through corruption. And temperance is at an end. Infidelity is cut off. Righteousness is grown up. Truth is sprung up. That's why this is all happening. Then shall no man be able to save him that is destroyed, Esau, Edom, nor to oppress him that have gotten the victory. See?
You certainly won't have the U.S. government boycotting the regime of South Africa. You will not have the CIA interfering in their elections, trying to stage a coup, trying to justify regime change in that country. You will not see any of this. And you certainly will not hear calls from the Biden administration to take in refugees from South Africa. I really wonder why that is. It certainly couldn't have anything to do with the fact that the skin color of the persecuted minorities there is politically and culturally inconvenient. Right? That's reason number one. Reason number two, though, and I think what's arguably more important, is that, like I said, if we are not careful, these types of scenes and ultimately the consequences of stuff like that is absolutely coming to the United States, right? Because we see the type of rhetoric pushed against white people in this country now, right? For now, we call it critical race theory. For now, we say it's wokeness, and, we're kind of told that white people are bad, but you don't hear that very explicitly said. But my question is...
There's a shameful spewing on the legacy of Edomites, and there's nothing you could do to save them. All right. This is Psalm 75:4. I said unto fools, deal not foolishly, and to the wicked lift not up the horn. And that's what these devils have done. They've lifted up the horn. Now everybody wants to come to their aid. Ultimately, the scripture says, prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers. Lift not up your horn on high. Speak not with a stiff neck. And that's what this beast system has done. For promotion cometh neither from the east, neither from the west, nor from the south. But God is the judge. He putteth down one and setteth up another. And you're getting ready to be put down. Okay, so there's a wicked legacy tied to this beast system headed by America, which is Babylon the Great, the NATO, the EU. You're not innocent. You see? And you're not white, you're Edomites. For in the hand of Yahawah there's a cup, and the wine is red, it is full of mixture, and he poureth out the same, but the dregs thereof, all the wicked of the earth shall wring them out and drink them. But I will declare forever, I will sing praises to the God of Jacob. The horns of the wicked will I cut off, but the horns of the righteous shall be exalted. So your power is getting ready to be taken away. Okay? Job 20 and 22, in the fullness of his sufficiency, he shall be in straits, and every hand of the wicked shall come upon him. And that word wicked is the laborer. Okay, the wretched one. When he is about to fill his belly, God shall cast the fury of his wrath upon him and rain it upon him while he is eating. This is why all of these things are going left. Things are going wrong. It's not working out as these devils planned it. And it's only going to get worse. All right. And there's nothing no one is going to be able to do to save this devil. Okay. Another good video to watch. You can finish that if you want. You know, you see the titles. Okay. You can also check this one out.
The United States.
U.S. France threaten intervention in resource-rich Niger, fears war in West Africa.
And France are threatening foreign intervention in West Africa, in particular in the country of Niger, where a pro-Western government was overthrown. This is a region of the world that is very rich in natural resources and is also very strategic for the United States and France. Of course, France colonized West Africa and still maintains many neo-colonial policies, which I'll be discussing today. But also, the United States has one of its largest and most important drone bases based in Niger. And Niger is one of the world's largest producers of uranium. And uranium is used for European energy, especially France, a country that has a lot of nuclear energy. As well, Niger is a major producer of gold. So the possibility of a foreign military intervention in Niger and potentially other West African nations is very seriously on the table. It is a threat that many countries in West Africa are taking seriously. And we have seen statements from neighboring countries of Niger that have similar governments, like in Burkina Faso and also in Mali, that have said that if there is a foreign intervention, they would consider this a declaration of war. The possibility of war breaking out in West Africa is very real, and as is pretty much always the case, Western powers are the ones fueling the fire of this conflict and threatening war. Let's not forget that this is a region where there were very recent examples of Western military intervention. In 2013 and 2014, France led a military intervention in Mali, a neighbor of Niger, and in 2011, NATO, led by the United States with the support of France and Canada and other European nations, destroyed the central government of Libya that was led by the revolutionary leader Muammar Gaddafi. They killed Gaddafi, and still today, a decade later, Libya has no central government. It's been in a state of civil war, and now there's a possibility of...
And they use so much propaganda to push that on Libya and to act as if he was this evil dictator. But look at Libya now. They had free air conditioner, free electricity, free health care. You know, things were better before what happened. You see, and people are waking up to these things. That's all.
Of the Western powers expanding that conflict to the west and to the south, to the Sahel region. So today we're going to talk about what's going on in Niger, also in Burkina Faso and Mali and Guinea, and the threats of Western military intervention. Now, I will clarify at the beginning here, I am definitely not an Africa expert. I would never claim to be an Africa expert, but I've done a lot of research on these events, and I want to talk about the geopolitical and economic implications and how this is part of a larger international campaign by the United States and by European colonial powers to reassert a kind of neo-colonial policy politically and economically, in particular on resource-rich countries in the global south. Africa is an extremely resource-rich continent, and the Western powers have relied on exploiting its mineral wealth and exploiting the labor of African workers in order to get rich and in order to maintain their riches and their inequality.
See, it goes back to the blessing given to Esau. He would, have the fatness of the earth, all right, but he would get it by the sword. And this is how Esau is over in these resource-rich, continents and countries within the continent, winning.
almost all of West Africa was colonized by France, which committed brutal war crimes and atrocities. It committed genocide. It used concentration camps, the same kind of policies that the Nazis also used, the French Empire used in Africa. And today we see that many of these nationalist military leaders in countries like Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali are invoking the historical legacy of the anti-colonial movements and even revolutionary socialist movements like Thomas Sankara's movement that he led, the revolution he led in Burkina Faso in the 19th.
So basically, Africa is standing up to, the war bullying, and all of the, the beast, man. So I just wanted to get into that. I was going to bring out, a few other articles. This one, where North Korea vows to annihilate U.S., says country will be terminated this century. All right. North Korea's foreign ministry this week vowed that the country would annihilate the United States, adding that U.S. would be determined or terminated this century. So should the U.S. choose to offend our republic, we will annihilate them by using all our military power we have gathered so far, North Korean diplomats said in a statement Thursday. So you can keep going, but this is where we are. So hopefully I'll edify on to the next. Shalom.